a red-haired beauty, names Ruby, seriously explains to her partner Lloyd that the freshness of ingredients directly affects the perfection level of alchemy. Lloyd begins to apologize, but she cuts him off and warns him not to make excuses, insisting that this is not some standard item and holds him accountable for his repeated carelessness. Lloyd recalls his time working in a pharmacy at age 19 as she speaks. She reminds him, behave responsibly as he is the assistant mage. He realizes he is not facing this alone but working alongside his partner and lover, the genius alchemist Ruby. Without hesitation, she throws away the flower he brought, tossing it into the trash without a second thought. He got the phantom fluoro after a week of effort, nights without sleep and careful preservation, and she discarded it like waste. At that moment, he recognizes that she is no longer the same soft-hearted alchemist the Empire admires, a rare prodigy behind numerous inventions. To him, she seems more like a tyrant. Sitting firmly in her chair, she insists that everything produced in her lab must meet the highest quality standards. She calls his attempt a failure in the material collection. Alchemy is a partnership. One designs and mixes, and the other gathers materials. He reflects bitterly that her formula success rate is 100%, while his material gathering barely hits 40. He knows most assistants maintain a rate of 90 or above. She tells him the project won't be completed on time and mutters that, again, Atri's reputation suffers because of him. She demands to know if he even understands what he is doing, and insists that it is his duty to provide her with quality materials, and to do so on time. Lloyd apologizes sincerely, but she lashes out again, saying if he is so good at apologizing, he should try doing his job correctly. She insults him, calling him lazy, foolish, and useless. She states with certainty that his material collection rate is the lowest in the entire kingdom. He is overwhelmed with shame, aware of the whispers surrounding him. Ruby reminds him to be conscious of his incompetence. When he apologizes again, she erupts, expressing how deeply she despises that habit. His endless apologies infuriate her. He remembers trying to reason with her, telling her that breaking things in anger is wrong. She coldly tells him that someone like him has no right to speak like that. He begins to see how she uses her influence to belittle him, and society quietly supports it. He reaches a breaking point. With conviction, he tells her that he can't continue like this, and he decides to leave Atori. But as he turns away, Ruby dismisses his words. She tells him to return by evening and cook curry for dinner. He is stunned. He tries again to tell her he's ending their relationship. She replies that he does not need to report his every action, clearly unable to understand his emotions. He finds her personality unbearable. He grabs his item box and turns to leave, determined to escape this torment. As he does, she slips something into his bag. Curious, he asks what she added. She tells him it's a letter reminding him to bring back Earl Grey tea. He silently curses her, realizing she still sees him as nothing more than a servant. Outside, he sits alone, trying to make sense of his emotions. He clutches the tea in his hand, unsure why he even bought it. He realizes that the feeling of servitude is deeply rooted within him. His eyes drift upward, and he is captivated by a dragon soaring across the sky, its wings stretching wide and free. He longs to be like it, unbound, uninfluenced by anyone. The desire moves him to tears, but when others see him crying, they mock him. He turns away from them and decides this moment will mark a new beginning. He boards a carriage, planning to go to a destination where no one knows him. In the carriage, he notices a couple. A girl named Lyra tells her partner, Mars, that he's sitting too close. Mars explains that he cannot help it since the carriage is cramped. Lloyd watches them and recognizes them as the typical romantic pair. The atmosphere shifts to his affection, and Lyra confesses how proximity makes her hear her own heartbeat. Lloyd, however, wonders why she would say such things if she's embarrassed. He remains indifferent but wishes they'd acknowledge his presence. Looking at them behave this way, he begins reflecting his relationship with Ruby. He realizes that his relationship with her was nothing like this. It was servitude, not love. He reflects that perhaps he liked her once. He remembers how she once said his name with warmth, comforted him when he cried, and gave him food when he was hungry. Despite being raised in an orphanage, he recalls her vow to become the greatest alchemist. She wanted to live like a noble with enough to eat, and she had told him to become her personal mage. From then on, they buried themselves in their roles. Ruby rose to fame, and he faded into irrelevance. The carriage jolts to a stop. Lyra says the coachman is shouting. Lloyd wonders if something has gone wrong. His voice startles her. She hadn't realized he was listening. She calls him suspicious. He feels hurt by this, as she hasn't even tried to get to know him. Mars tries to comfort him by explaining that she often speaks without thinking. Lloyd brushes it off and suggests they step outside. They find a grotesque worm-like monster emerging from the ground. Lyra, trembling, confesses she's no match for it. Mars calls her foolish for giving up before trying and promises to protect her, even at the cost of his life. She confesses her love. Watching them, Lloyd realizes how different they are from him and Ruby. He steps forward, saying he's fought similar monsters, and offers advice. He explains that the creature's weakness is its head. If he can sever it, they'll win. Mars is unsure how he's supposed to reach the monster's head. Lloyd urges him to use his willpower and come up with a solution. Lyra remains skeptical, saying they shouldn't trust a creepy-looking stranger so easily. But before they can debate further, the monster attacks. Lloyd steps forward and unleashes a powerful magical explosion. The monster is annihilated. Lloyd explains that this way he has blown off the head. Mars, stunned, says the entire creature is gone. Lloyd apologizes. Saying it didn't go as he had advised, Mars still thanks him. Lyra, shocked, asks what kind of ancient magic he used. She questions why Mars isn't more surprised. Lloyd is puzzled. Mars replies that this is what magic is supposed to do. Lyra disagrees, calling it absurd and labeling the spell a cheat. Lloyd is taken aback. She accuses him of being both suspicious and overpowered. Then she apologizes, admitting that his spell amazed her. She reveals she is also a mage. Mars believes anyone who carries a staff is easily recognized as a mage, but Lyra retorts that every old person would then be qualified as a mage. Mars jokes that they'll all grow old too someday. Lloyd thinks this remark is too straightforward. Then, Lyra asks him to teach her magic. Lloyd hesitates, saying he's not a great magician. She insists, calling him her master. He is stunned. No one has ever called him anything but useless, just Ruby's childhood friend. Lyra expresses her desire to learn his magic. He agrees to ask her some questions first. She is thrilled and wants to know if he will follow through. He says he's a good person who doesn't lie. Mars quietly notes that people who say that usually aren't. Lyra comes forward and apologizes, acknowledging her earlier disrespect and accepting him as her teacher. Mars wonders if it can even be considered apology if she is so rude. Lloyd tells her that young people make mistakes, but he only wants her to use magic responsibly. Mars is impressed and calls him sensei. Lyra agrees, saying she would even accept all his debts if that's what it takes to be a student. Lloyd tries to tell them he's not worthy of that title. Lyra, curious, asks who he really is. He wonders whether they would still accept him if they knew the truth. He asks if they've seen the alchemist, Ruby. Lyra replies that Ruby is the most extraordinary alchemist in the country, a historical figure of genius. He then asks if she knows Ruby's assistant mage. She says his name is Lloyd, an incompetent mage with a 40% collection rate. She confesses she hates him and wishes he would die. Whenever she reads about Ruby's failed expeditions, it is due to his faults. Lloyd just sinks down in despair. Lyra, smiling, asks for his thoughts. With tears in his eyes, he tells her that he is the same Lloyd she wants dead. Lyra and Mars are left speechless. He tells them that he has quit being an assistant mage and has come to Manurva for a new beginning. Lyra tells him he is a fantastic magician and urges him to believe in himself. Both offer their support. He thanks them, wondering if he might actually be lucky to make such friends so quickly. Lyra suggests him to change his looks, perhaps wear a fur coat and sport a mohawk. Mars chips in as well, completing the look with a thorny bracelet. Lloyd is forced to reconsider his companions. The group finally arrives in Manurva, the city of life in the Southern Light region, 3 weeks after leaving the capital. He resolves to leave people like Ruby behind and live a life of joy and freedom. His second life begins at last. That's what he believes. However, this is not the case. He sees a girl standing before him. She tells him that his escape has ended. He is stunned, realizing that his new life has lasted only 1 day. He cannot understand why each time one problem ends, another begins. Just a few hours earlier in the city of Manurva, Lloyd is astonished as he observes the city. The capital is 3 weeks away by carriage, yet Manurva remains prosperous. Mars comments on how much attention adventuring businesses receive. Lyra agrees, adding that it likely serves as the foundation of the city's economy. Curious, Lloyd asks if they used to be adventurers. Mars happily responds and invites him to join them, but Lloyd declines, saying he doesn't consider himself suited for the role. Lyra insists he seems like the type. She explains that adventurers travel, fight monsters, gather materials, and explore dungeons. All that is not so different from what an assistant mage might do. Lloyd finds their explanation convincing, so Lyra suggests they continue the conversation over lunch. He is shocked they're willing to share more of their time with him. Lyra announces that she, along with her assistant Mars, will help Lloyd with his new life. He finds this statement the embodiment of sunlight itself. Lyra tells him there's no need to speak so sentimentally and instead notices Lloyd as being stingy with food. He explains he already ate during the ride. Lyra warns that if he keeps this up, He might never escape the patterns of his first life. She wants him to splurge and shows a cup of tapioca milk tea, excitedly sharing that the drink is all the rage in Manurva. Lara then gives Lloyd a paper and pen and asks him to write about the kind of job he would like to do. Taking this seriously, Lloyd thinks deeply, but is interrupted by thoughts of Ruby. The Ruby in his head keeps telling him to work for him, so he remains uncertain. Mars begins to feel that Lloyd might be holding back because of Ruby. Lara encourages him to think more openly, even about jobs he's never imagined. Eventually, he writes something on the paper and hands it to them. They read what he's written in his wish list. He explains that he doesn't want to become an adventurer or explore dungeons because Ruby might find him. The school doesn't appeal to him at his age. He prefers the outdoors, ruling out lab work. He wants to use magic, but the blood that comes with mercenary work bothers him. Mars thinks his wishes are selfish for someone ordinary. Lara tells him his refusal to become an adventurer feels so depressing that even she finds it discouraging. After some thought, she suggests he open a tool shop by using his knowledge of gathering materials. Lloyd doesn't mind the idea, but worries Ruby might visit, demand materials, and question what he's doing there. Lara then suggests he become a carpenter. He seriously considers it. He imagines repairing Ruby's roof only to be told it's terrible. He imagines her reminding him that he's just an assistant mage. Mars interrupts these thoughts by suggesting they become adventurers together. Lara supports the idea and reassures Lloyd that he doesn't need to be afraid of Ruby. She calls it foolish to assume Ruby will find out about his job, as it is too unreasonable. And even if she does return, he can refuse going back. She tells him they will support him if he chooses the adventuring path. Mars agrees. Moved, Lloyd thanks them with tears in his eyes and asks if he can become like them someday. They assure him that he can. He begins to realize he must let go of the past. He declares that the frightened version of himself must disappear. From now on, he will become a new Lloyd and agrees to join them in becoming an adventurer. He feels better walking forward without fear. Watching him, Lara feels something sorrowful stir inside, but Mars reminds her that it's a significant step. Suddenly, they all spot a large statue ahead. Lara identifies it as the bronze figure of a strange older woman. Lloyd explains that it is a statue of a saint from the Emerald Church, someone believed to receive divine messages. He warns that calling such a figure in a disrespectful tone would mean a death sentence elsewhere. Lara feels spooked by this. Mars realizes Lloyd knows a great deal about religion. Lloyd then walks away, telling them they'll meet at the guild tomorrow. Lara asks if he isn't going to the inn, but he says he's hungry and plans to train for his debut at the Adventurers Guild. Lara feels that his resolve is intense, but they are glad to see him in better spirits. Later at night, two large men appear. One of them puts a knife to his face, claiming they need money. Lloyd steps back, calmly saying he doesn't want his adventuring life to end now. The men are confused by his words. At the same time, a girl comes who casts Ice Spear, which is a high-level spell. She also declares to the men that their evil ends here and orders them to stop. The men charge at her. With no choice, the girl braces herself. Lloyd realizes the village will be buried in ice if she casts that spell again. He enhances his strength and uses magic to subdue both men, knocking them out. He walks over to the girl and tells her Ice Spear is too dangerous in such moments. She apologizes, but he thanks her for the timely distraction. He notices her attire like that of a priestess, yet she wields powerful magic. He can't identify her. She points out that blood is running down his cheek. He dismisses it, but she insists, mentioning her healing abilities. As she draws closer, he thinks how strange it is to allow someone so near as not even Ruby had ever been this close. She asks why his face is red. Iris introduces herself with a bright smile, and Lloyd thanks her, asking if she lives nearby. She shakes her head, just arrived today, which strikes him as a strange coincidence. She cheerfully asks about his work, but he shyly admits he's an adventurer. She seems impressed. He downplays it and asks about her. She admits she's unemployed. The honesty makes him smile. They might not be so different after all. He asks why she came to Manurva. She replies she came to try the famous tapioca tea. Lloyd tells her he knows a place. She asks him to guide her. They walk together for a while until she realizes her attendant must be waiting at the inn. He finds her presence princess-like and jokingly calls her princess, asking her not to leave him alone in the dark night. He is instantly haunted by Ruby, who calls him trash for attempting to form a friendship. Iris quickly apologizes and then calls him prince. He becomes emotional. She softly asks if he'll help find her way back. He agrees. Meanwhile, Mars and Lara are observing everything. Lara tells Mars she followed Lloyd because she was worried. Now, she finds the situation fascinating, even imagining it as the beginning of a love story. She spins stories in her head about the two. Mars tells her she's getting carried away with her imagination. Still, she continues, saying Iris will eventually throw a love letter at the incompetent prince. causing his ex, Ruby, to be enraged. Mars thinks Lyra has read too many strange books and tells her to come along. She yells that she's protecting a precious moment and threatens to shoot an arrow through anyone who stops her from forming a couple. She shoots an arrow inside a building, hoping to instigate them. Mars finds this absurd as it is the Adventurer Guild and wonders what her plan even is. She believes love is easily blossomed when troubled souls deal with hardships together. She quotes this from a romance book, calling herself a small helping hand. Mars starts to feel pity for Lloyd. On the other side, Lloyd tells Iris he never thought she had truly gotten lost. She shyly points out he doesn't need to say it so teasingly. He leads her to the Adventurers Guild, suggesting they can ask for directions. Both are shocked when they arrive and see the people seated in front. He looks at them, surprised, and politely asks for help. But something feels wrong. The people respond harshly, demanding to know if it was them who shot an arrow just now. They begin shouting, accusing him of desecrating the portrait of their beloved Saint Sama. They advance towards them, asking if they are the culprits. They accuse Lloyd of holding back the kingdom's top alchemist and call him an incompetent mage. Lloyd is stunned. He doesn't know how they recognize him. He realizes Iris must now know he's an incompetent mage. The crowd starts screaming, calling him a heretic, accusing him of fleeing the capital and now attacking the guild. They rush at him. Lloyd realizes he can't hesitate anymore. He has no idea how to stop this without harming anyone, so he summons entangling vines. The attackers are trapped. They can't cut themselves free, and the vines writhe around and inside them. Watching it all, Lloyd feels he has created a terrifying scene. Their screams echo ahead. At that moment, a woman's voice calls from above. Iris is shocked to see that it is Isolde. Lloyd turns to Iris and asks if she knows her. Iris nods and explains that she was once her knight and bodyguard. He is astonished. Isolde looks confused, trying to understand what's going on. She looks at Iris and begins to ask if she is really who she thinks she is, the sacred Ronald Saint, Iris of Elsbrel. Isolde and the others bow before Iris, offering sincere apologies for the earlier incident. They admit that they were unaware she was the saint of the Holy Roland Kingdom and deeply regret how the guild members treated her. Iris, calm and composed, urges them to raise their heads. She explains that she usually wears a veil, which is likely why they didn't recognize her. Watching the scene unfold, Lloyd begins to suspect that this level of reverence might be a policy from the guildmaster, given how quickly everyone bowed. Nearby, an adventurer wonders quietly why being a saint matters so much. They assume Iris is from a neighboring country and fail to understand the importance. A voice rises above the murmurs. Even with the vine still in his mouth, he sternly reminds the newcomer of Iris's significance. He explains that she is a VIP, a holy maiden with the rare holy law power, a force that can rejuvenate life, turning barren lands into fertile ground. He points out that areas untouched by this power are known as uncultivated territories, where high-level demons roam. Lloyd listens closely, adding that each country has only one saintess, which is why they are even more protected. He recalls Iris telling him she was unemployed and begins to question the truth. Meanwhile, Isolde grows angry, identifying those who raised their hands against Iris. She announces that all involved will be demoted to E-rank adventurers. But before any action is taken, Iris stops them. With a quiet sense of regret, she tells them not to punish anyone because she is no longer a saint. Everyone around her is stunned. The revelation hangs heavy in the air, confusing the crowd. Isolde asks where the current saintess is. Iris reassures her that a new saintess has already taken her place. Lloyd, watching from the side, is struck with disbelief. He cannot understand how Iris can say such a thing so easily. The danger she could face from these fanatics if they learn this truth worries him. Yet the people around her are moved. They believe she is saying all of this just so they do not get punished. She is a true saint who would give up everything for others. Isolde solemnly accepts her words and agrees not to punish anyone, but she warns Iris never to lie to her again. Iris assures her sincerely that she was not lying and is no longer the saint, but the crowd isn't willing to believe her. Lloyd looks around and sees nothing but blind devotion. Everyone present seems completely taken by her presence. With that, he and Iris leave the area. As they walk, Iris remarks that a new day is beginning. He realizes how much time has passed and silently thanks her for taking control of the situation. Without her, things might have spiraled out of control. Suddenly, he apologizes, feeling responsible for dragging her into unnecessary trouble because of his reputation. But Iris calmly takes the blame, saying she got lost and doesn't see him as a bad person. She admits she enjoyed their talk tonight. It was her first night as just Iris, and she gently asks him not to apologize. He reflects on her words. He thinks about her, someone who has lived her entire life as a saint, and understands that she must carry quiet loneliness to someone who now feels as if they don't have a place to truly belong to. Iris notices the change in his expression and asks if he's all right. He tells her sincerely that he just wanted to thank her, but she tells him it isn't necessary. She also mentions that when he speaks so formally, it makes her expect too much. Surprised by the comment, he doesn't know what to say. Instead, he tells her he wants to visit the clock tower. She calmly says she doesn't mind. Without warning, he activates his physical enhancement magic, picks her up, and begins jumping. He carries her all the way to the rooftop of the clock tower. Iris, startled by the sudden movement, says nothing until they reach the top. She finds the entire view breathtaking. Hearing this, he realizes what he has done and gently sets her down there. From the rooftop, the city glows beneath them. He points out the magical lightstone that lights up the city. With seriousness, he explains that it absorbs sunlight during the day and releases it at night. He shares what he's heard, that the stone was crafted by an ancient and legendary goldsmith named Hecate. Calmly, he tells her that while running around gathering materials, looking down at the city from the mountains brought him a moment of peace. She thanks him, moved by the view. He gently draws her attention to the sight in front of them, encouraging her to keep looking. The magical stone, glowing faintly, reflects the earliest rays of dawn. He then opens up, explaining that he has always lived as an assistant mage. When his life lost meaning, he escaped to Manurva. He confesses that he isn't anyone special, but at least this way, he can show his favorite view to a special friend. Iris listens and then tells him joyfully that the view is beautiful. Holding his hand, she hopes to find her place in this beautiful world. Suddenly, he slips and starts to fall, but Iris catches his hand and pulls him up with surprising strength. With concern, she asks if he tried to throw himself. He denies it and says he was just surprised with the sudden affection. She begins laughing as she finds him strange. Her words surprise him. He then asks what kind of life she wants now. Calm and confident, she says she wants to spend peaceful days with her new friend. He feels quietly overjoyed. Elsewhere, Mars and Lara observe the moment. Lara excitedly tells Mars that this is what true victory looks like for her Cupid bow and arrow. Meanwhile, Isolde has gotten a hold of Mars and demands to know about the whole story. Back at the royal capital, Ruby is at her atelier. She's yelling at someone, demanding to know if he's joking. The person explains that it's been over a week since the request was submitted. Ruby, understanding the urgency, tells him that all they can do now is wait for her assistant mage to return. However, the employee regretfully informs her that the auditors are downgrading the atelier to a B rank. She becomes furious. She realizes that their rank is what gives them credibility, and if this continues, her reputation will be in ruins. She grows more frustrated when thinking about Lloyd. He's been gone for 3 weeks and doesn't understand why he's behaving this way. She remembers the others in the atelier who said they would help, but later were unable to. If a loser like Lloyd was able to get the necessary materials, then it shouldn't have been so hard. Anger takes over and she shouts, believing that others are deliberately making things difficult for someone as talented as her. She questions how they can call themselves professionals and have no shame. In her eyes, Lloyd is responsible for everything. With determination, she vows to become a Chronicle-class alchemist like Hecate. She thinks that he isn't needed anymore and resolves to find a new assistant mage for herself. At the Adventurer Guild, Lloyd stands anxiously, aware that he is about to become an adventurer. Seeing the others still not present, he senses they are pretty late. Suddenly, he freezes as he sees Lyra and Mars being dragged by Isolde. Calmly, Isolde informs Lloyd that an unavoidable incident occurred earlier that morning. Observing his worried expression, she asks him seriously whether he is their companion. Lloyd, unsure of what could have happened to them in just half a day, remains speechless. At the same time, she tells him she has heard rumors about him and wants to know the purpose of his arrival in the town. Lloyd grows even more confused, scared of the type of interrogation she has begun. Sometime earlier in the interrogation room of the Grim Guild, Mars is worried, concerned about why she cannot speak. Isolde explains that she had to use silencing magic on the half-elf, not wanting a confrontation with a mage. She turns to Mars and sternly demands the reason behind the attack on the guild. She questions whether it is religious terrorism or an operation from another country. Unable to speak, Lara nervously worries that if Mars tells the truth, they will all think she is insane. She signals to Mars, trying to guide him to say that bandits attacked them and a stray arrow hit them. She urges him silently to come up with something reasonable. Mars seems to understand, surprising her. But then he says that she wants to become a Cupid of love. Lara stares at him in shock, realizing he completely misunderstood her signal. Isolde calmly asks what kind of love he means. Mars continues, explaining that she is fond of the novel Letter of Insulation for the Incompetent Prince, and believes that everything can be solved through love. Lara, flustered, tries to stop him. She is embarrassed by her tastes being revealed in front of others. Isolde listens with composure as Mars continues speaking about the incompetent prince. Helpless, Lyra feels like imploding from the embarrassment. Isolde, handing both of them over to Lloyd, states with finality that she will overlook this incident just once. As punishment, she instructs Mars and Lyra to take on guild requests 3 days a week for the next month without compensation. Despite knowing he can easily defeat A-ranked adventurers in her guild, she reflects on how Lloyd is still considered incompetent in the royal capital. She recalls that St. Iris arrived unexpectedly last night because of him, and that the attack on the guild was also caused by the two he is now with. Both incidents are tied to him. She begins to think there is something unusual about him. She considers seriously whether he might become a threat to Manurva, and if so, she will have to ask him to leave the city in the guild's name. She struggles to figure out how to make him reveal his true purpose. Mars energetically asks Lloyd if he is registered as an adventurer, but Lloyd wants to avoid this topic. Isolde overhears them and forces him to join, stating that the guild is always in search of new members. With this, they have begun a new journey. Lloyd realizes that the guild's entrance exam has already begun. Lyra explains that they are heading to a special location, and after that, Lloyd would need to touch the trial crystal as part of the test. Surprised, he listens as Lyra explains that the trial crystal is a hidden treasure, capable of evaluating strength, offering vocational aptitude, personality analysis, compatibility readings, and even life advice. Lloyd finds the number of functions overwhelming. He starts to think seriously about the vocational aptitude feature. He wonders if the crystal can reveal the profession most suitable for him. If it can, perhaps he doesn't need to force himself into being an adventurer. Isolde, watching him, also begins to consider whether the trial crystal might expose his true nature. They arrive at the Temple of the Winds, a dungeon located 1 hour away from Manurva. Isolde informs Lloyd that the crystal is kept on the top floor and instructs him to advance while defeating the monsters inside. As they proceed, Lloyd seriously asks if she has ever touched the crystal and whether it revealed her profession. She firmly replies that it is none of his concern. While walking, he suddenly halts. Seeing him stop, Lyra asks if something is wrong. He explains that he senses monsters on the floor below. Ahead of them, they spot black spiders and beetles. It is unclear whether the other adventurers below will be able to hold them off. Lyra grabs her staff as she declares that Class B adventurers are here, indicating that these mere insects are no match for her. Unfortunately, a spider lands on her face and she instantly begins rolling on the ground in fear. Isolde has to take matters into her own hands. She attacks the monsters herself, stating that even with the power of a saint, monsters still come. Using her wind magic, she declares that the guild's mission is to eliminate every single one. Lloyd is amazed to see her fighting as a magic swordswoman. When the monsters charge toward him, he activates physical enhancement. Concerned voices shout for him to be careful. He uses lightning magic in response. Isolde, observing him, notices that there is no wasted movement in his actions. He informs everyone that beetles are low-tier monsters but valuable due to the materials they provide. Since the spiders have entangled them, they are easier to catch. Isolde, hearing this, begins to question whether the rumor of him being an incompetent mage is actually true. She decides to test him. She approaches and asks what he would do if he encountered a monster stronger than himself. Lloyd replies seriously that he would stagger it with 16 consecutive explosive spells and then retreat. She is stunned, knowing that even one such spell is advanced magic, and most would collapse after using just one. Even if he is lying, she suspects something unusual about him. She suggests taking a short break. Arriving at their resting spot, Lloyd expresses his desire for tea. Calmly, Lyra states that she belongs to a noble elf lineage and carries tea with her. She will serve everyone in 2 rounds. Suddenly, he feels like an ordinary person. At that point, Isolde hands him a plate. Mars, seeing it, asks if she made it. Isolde feels offended and asks whether they cannot eat what she has cooked. They quickly begin eating and are surprised by how delicious the food is. They start praising it. Lloyd reflects that this is the first time he is eating home-cooked food inside a dungeon. Lyra also praises the food and tells her that she cannot believe someone who can fight with sword and magic is also a good cook. Isolde reveals that she is the only daughter of Minerva's lord and has had to master many skills for the sake of her family's name. Lyra is surprised to hear that Isolde too is of nobility, but Isolde dismisses the need for any sympathy. Lloyd then asks whether the results of her training are reflected in her crystal's vocational outcome. Isolde stands up and announces that they are moving on. As they walk, Lyra mentions that she thinks Isolde is hiding her crystal's result and asks Lloyd if he is not curious. He replies calmly that some things are not meant to be shared. They reach the top of the Temple of Air. Isolde shows them the trial crystal, holding it in her hand, and explains how to grip it and ask questions. She demonstrates by asking the crystal about her own aptitude. The crystal responds by calling her name and states that she is highly skilled in both magic and swordsmanship and holds the S rank. Isolde explains that this is how it functions. Lloyd finds it astonishing that the crystal can understand their words. Lara then asks the crystal about Isolde's vocation. The crystal reveals that he has 3 potential professions. The first is martial artist. Isolde tries to disconnect the crystal. Lloyd begins to realize this is a ranking system. The crystal continues and reveals the second profession, Holy Knight. Isolde attempts to cancel the crystal. Suddenly, the voice of a baker echoes from within the crystal. Everyone falls silent, stunned. In the midst of it, Lloyd, visibly nervous, tries to ease the awkwardness by saying that he likes sweet things. Suddenly, a massive griffin appears and begins wreaking havoc. Everyone is shocked. Unexpectedly, the griffin swallows the crystal and flies away. Lloyd tries to stop it, as he still has not heard his own vocation. The griffin flies off with the crystal, and Lloyd immediately gives chase, calling after it and demanding the return of the crystal. He uses lightning magic, but it has no effect. Lara, watching from behind, grows disheartened, unsure whether the griffin dodged or endured the magic. Still, Lloyd refuses to give up and unleashes a stronger burst of thunder magic. Isolde watches with concern and questions if he's trying to bring the entire tower down, but Lloyd apologizes, assuring her that wasn't his intention. Mars is confused as to why a high-ranking monster like a griffin would appear in such a place. Isolde dismisses the speculation and orders them to stop the creature before anyone else is injured. The group loses track of the griffin in the maze-like corridors of the temple. Mars calmly instructs everyone not to panic, but Isolde wishes for a sign from the griffin. Mars calls out, asking what Isolde's favorite food is. Unexpectedly, the crystal responds to fluffy pancakes. This way they can follow the griffin's movements. Lloyd asks Isolde whether the crystal still answers if no one touches it. She replies that it answers after touching. Lloyd loudly asks about her ability, but Isolde reminds him the crystal has already answered that, so it won't answer again. Lloyd, confused, thinks such words of praise should be heard often. Hearing this, Isolde is embarrassed, but tells him not to worry about her and focus on saving lives. She urges him to keep asking if needed, as she cannot come up with questions. Her words surprise the group. Suddenly, it has turned into a game of asking about Isolde's tastes. Lloyd asks what type of magic she is skilled in. The crystal answers wind magic. Mars asks her favorite animal. The answer is a rabbit. Lara asks about her favorite book. It's a love novel. The group reacts with curiosity. Lara wants to know the genre. The crystal answers stories of love that transcend boundaries. Isolde firmly tells them not to pry further. Lara goes one step further and asks about her favorite couple pairing, prompting Isolde to demand what their intention even is. Meanwhile, they realize the distance to the griffin remains unchanged. Lloyd casts physical enhancement magic to increase their speed. This causes them to sprint ahead with remarkable speed. Isolde, stunned, realizes that even such an ordinary spell can be mastered to such a degree. As they move, Lara is unable to withstand the quickness of the spell and fears she might fall. Mars moves quickly to save her, promising to protect her even at the cost of his life. Isolde notes with dismay that their valuable fighter has fallen behind. Elsewhere in the temple, the others grow tired while battling spider-like monsters. Their instructor reminds them that a true adventurer doesn't complain of fatigue, especially this close to the end. He encourages them, mentioning that Lloyd may soon join their guild and that his examiner was the guild master himself. Some begin discussing Isolde, noting that while she is competent and sincere, her appearance and presence make most male guild members too intimidated to partner with her. They assume Lloyd has collapsed somewhere due to his own harsh training. Just then, a voice asks what kind of pajamas Isolde likes, followed by a huge crash of the griffin. Simultaneously, the crystal replies those decorated with rabbits and moons. The others are saved by Lloyd's group and are wondering what is happening. Isolde orders them to evacuate the recruits immediately. Confused, the leader questions about the pajamas, but Isolde insists they leave. Lloyd, meanwhile, charges the griffin with determination, using water bullet magic. He thinks he can land a decisive strike if he can lure it out of the tower. He swears to recover the crystal no matter what. Isolde watches, unable to understand his obsession. She wonders why someone labeled incompetent has such extensive knowledge of magic and monsters. Her confusion deepens as she wonders why he is so focused on the crystal, and why he arrived in Manurva with Saint Iris. She begins to suspect that his true objective was always the crystal, and that he manipulated Iris to gain her power. Lara silently casts a sound-erasing spell. Isolde is shocked, knowing Lara had only mentioned concealment magic before. Lara, however, remembers that Lloyd recently taught her this technique, and her real strength lies in how she applies magic. She charges the griffin, striking it with her staff. The crystal falls from its mouth, Both Isolde and Lloyd reach for it, but Lloyd grabs it and immediately asks about his vocation. The crystal answers his vocation is to be Ruby's servant. Lloyd freezes. Memories of Ruby surface how she would find him studying alchemy late into the night, smash his lamp, burn his notes, and yell at him to do only as she ordered. To her, he was nothing more than an assistant mage. The others feel sympathy, but Lloyd, in despair, says he has no choice but to do as she commands. He admits he doesn't want to live like that anymore. He wants to change, but doesn't know why life won't let him. Isolde looks at him with deep sorrow. Before anyone can approach, the griffin returns. Lara calls out, and Isolde moves quickly to protect Lloyd. Isolde tells him that the words of the crystal are just words. The true choice comes from within. She confesses she might have brought more joy as a baker, but she is proud of her path. She throws herself forward, determined to push the griffin out of the tower. She uses wind magic and forces the griffin out of the tower. Then she urges him to release everything he has. Lloyd unleashes his full power, storming lightning magic, and bursts it in a devastating strike. The griffin is finally subdued, and they return the crystal to its original position. Isolde apologizes to Lloyd for suspecting him of ulterior motives when he came to Manurva. Surprised, she assures him that this city can help him change. She tells him she'll pray for him. He thanks her sincerely. Isolde then asks the crystal about his favorite food. The answer is pot au feu. She promises to prepare it to celebrate him passing the adventurer's trial. He is deeply moved. His companions cheer on his success and congratulate him. He thanks them all, grateful. Isolde smiles and tells him he performed well. He is now permitted to take one guild mission per week. Everyone is pleased. Lara excitedly asks if he'll take a mission with them tomorrow. Lloyd notices Mars's wound and checks on him, but Mars assures him he'll heal quickly. Isolde declares that as the leader, she usually adventures on Sundays, though she suddenly realizes she may have forgotten what day it is. Still, everyone understands that she just wants to be invited. Mars asks if she can bake a cake for him, and Lara promises to bring a hand-picked love novel. Lloyd feels as if the whole group is growing close. Lara asks if following her elf custom is all right. Isolde replies seriously that religious freedom is a law here. A few days later, at an inn in Manurva, a man brings breakfast soup, omelet, and bread for Iris, excited to present her with the morning meal. But the maid, Sephilia, informs him seriously that Iris left early for magic training. He asks in confusion what will happen to her breakfast. She replies that the head maid already packed sandwiches. The man expresses sadness, saying that waking Iris with a fresh breakfast is his daily happiness. Sephilia, thoughtful, says that Iris has seemed different since arriving in Manurva. She's become more active, probably due to the magician. The man moves closer, asking for more details. She explains that on their first night in Manurva, Iris snuck out at midnight and met someone named Lloyd. She believes the two have grown close and suspects Iris is already looking forward to meeting him again. The man becomes angry, asking why he had not been told. Sephilia calmly reminds him he never asked. Frustrated, he accuses her of being deceitful as well. In conflict, he asks what this Lloyd even looks like. In his heart, he curses Lloyd, calling him an old menace. He resolves to join Iris on her next escort mission, quietly hoping for the moment the two meet again. 1 week later, they receive a commission from the Adventurers Guild: eliminate 40 goblins and 20 red boars with a reward of 3 gold coins. The clerk is surprised, as this mission typically takes 3 days to complete. He wonders how it was finished so quickly. Lyra cheerfully explains that it's because they are elite adventurers. Though Mars feels like all they did was stand still, Lyra quickly silences him, saying there's no need to reveal everything. Meanwhile, Isolde stands quietly holding a massive cake. Lloyd notices it and curiously asks who the cake is for. She explains that her subordinates discovered she enjoys baking, and they all wanted to try her cake, so she made a large one for everyone. She reminds him that he should complete at least one request entirely on his own. She points out that he is still taking care of Lyra and Mars, and says that just like she's doing what she wants, he should also do something for himself. Then she asks him seriously if there isn't something he personally wants to do. He reflects and admits that there is. He says that living a slow and peaceful life is the best thing in the world. Lara approaches Lloyd excitedly and says that they want to eat red boar curry. Isolde, watching them, feels annoyed, thinking Lara clings to him too much. She quietly reflects that he should try to make time for himself as well. The next day, Lloyd accepts a few missions and travels to the great forest of Vit. He realizes the request to eliminate 100 goblins in 4 nights and 5 days ends that morning. He begins to settle down for lunch, planning to complete 3 tasks today. Ruby appears and tells him that if he uses recovery magic, he wouldn't even need to rest. He acknowledges that if he stays awake all night, he might be able to finish 5 tasks. But Then he stops himself, realizing that such a plan is the opposite of the slow life he wants. Ruby's ghost, surprised, teases him, asking what people even do in a slow life. She mocks him, saying he doesn't even know what he wants and doesn't have anything he actually wants to do. She stuffs a piece of bread in his mouth, telling him to eat, work, and then come back to her. Lloyd angrily refuses and says he'll cook for himself. He decides to make pot-au-feu. Hearing this surprises her. He starts cooking, thinking back to the orphanage where pot-au-feu was the best meal. He recalls someone always stealing even his only sausage, but she tells him that she prefers curry. She reminds him that at the orphanage, the pot-au-feu only had rough scraps of vegetables. She says they were simply poor. He replies that it had always been his dream to cook that dish with proper ingredients. He mentions the physical labor is what gives the soup its true flavor. She cuts him off angrily, calls him a servant, and orders him to make curry. He is stunned by a sudden burst of water. Looking at the collision point, he spots Iris lying. Concerned, he approaches her and asks what happened. Iris feels deeply embarrassed, thinking he has seen her in such a state. She explains that she was practicing magic near the river at Manurva, failed, and was swept away by the current until she ended up here. Lloyd is shocked, realizing that it takes 2 hours to get in the carriage from Manurva. She begins calmly explaining what might happen if she doesn't return. Her attendants must be worried about her. Lloyd assures her he'll take her back once her clothes are dry. She thanks him, and he asks if she'd be willing to share a meal. He responds that he has made his favorite dish. When he removes the lid, he is stunned to realize that it's curry. Lloyd feels dejected, thinking he can't even make his favorite dish due to trauma and that he's completely useless. But she leans forward and starts tasting, telling him it's delicious and that his cooking is good. He thanks her, visibly uplifted. He then tells her that curry is actually Ruby's favorite dish. Hearing her name, Iris asks about her. Lloyd says Ruby is his childhood friend, a mage who wants to become the most extraordinary alchemist in the kingdom. He says she is truly remarkable, especially compared to someone like him, who only follows orders and helps Ruby. Iris finds him admirable and tells him that success only comes through the help of others. No matter how great Ruby might be, the fact remains that he helped her, and that makes him someone capable of helping others, which she finds beautiful. Lloyd thinks to himself that a peaceful life with Iris would be wonderful. He admits that he believed distancing himself from Ruby would fix everything. But coming to Manurva has made him realize that unless he changes, nothing will. He apologizes for talking too much, but she assures him that she understands. He is surprised. She gently reminds him that the reason she is no longer a saint is because she didn't change herself. Lloyd then quietly reflects that he knows nothing about Iris. Watching the two of them being close, Iris's attendants become angry. Nero glares at Lloyd, wondering what exactly he is feeding her. Iris talks to Lloyd about her maid, Syphilia, mentioning how she ended up eating all the food Nero prepared. Lloyd notices how genuinely happy Iris becomes when she talks about her attendants. He wishes to hear more about them. Suddenly, a voice calls out to Iris from the bushes, saying they have been searching for her. A girl named Tiruru appears. Iris is surprised to see her. She comments that it seems Iris was washed even farther down the river this time. Iris introduces Tiruru to Lloyd, explaining that she is the head maid. Tiruru calmly acknowledges Lloyd, saying she has heard a lot about him, and thanks him for helping. She then states that she has come to deliver Syphilia's forgotten belongings, and asks Iris about the location for Syphilia. Iris explains with nervousness that they separated and she ended up alone. Tiruru scolds her, reminding her that she is doing something dangerous again, and tells her that she had warned her to stop practicing magic because of the risks. Lloyd watches and realizes how strict and intimidating Tiruru is. Iris apologizes regretfully, saying that if she wants to get rid of the burden of being a saint, she would still want to help others. Tiruru, however, questions her intentions, asking if she plans to freeze Syphilia and the others again. Lloyd silently observes and realizes that Iris has a kind heart. He then steps forward and asks Tiruru to allow him to teach Iris magic. Iris becomes happy and confidently says she will be fine. Tiruru gives in. After all, it is better to have a professional guiding her. Lloyd thanks her, but Tiruru sternly warns that if she senses even the slightest danger, she will stop them immediately. He suggests that there is a wide-open area downstream by the river where they can go. All of this is observed by Nero and Syphilia, who seem unsure of what Tiruru is doing there. With calm seriousness, Nero tells Syphilia that at first he thought Lloyd had bad intentions, but now realizes there's nothing in his setup besides a desk and cooking tools. He expresses frustration that something like that was given to Iris to eat, and tells Syphilia to demonstrate her skills as a former holy knight. Syphilia is too busy eating. He angrily asks why she's doing that. She calmly replies that she's testing the food for poison. She also apologizes for forgetting her holy sword, but informs him that she did bring the radish he requested. Nero angrily tells her he no longer needs it because he asked for it a week ago. Syphilia says the curry is delicious, just like Nero's. Hearing this, he also begins eating, reasoning that as Iris's chef, he must know what she ate. Tasting it, he realizes it's a perfect blend of selected ingredients and spices, with rice cooked flawlessly. He feels it's a dish worthy of royalty and matches his own skill. However, he also senses an unusual fear in the curry. It's abnormal, and he believes whoever made it will bring misfortune to Iris. He decides that person must be eliminated. Meanwhile, Iris tells Lloyd she is still practicing the water dragon spell. He calmly confirms that it is the spell that summons a dragon made of water. He instructs her first to create a small vortex and gradually expand it. Iris follows his guidance but causes it expand very quickly, causing a huge wave of water to rise. Lloyd quickly breaks it with his water bullet. Tiruru watches with concern, feeling it might be dangerous, but he reassures her that everything is under control. He promises to stay by her side and do whatever is needed for her. He then realizes that he doesn't even remember when he first learned to use the water dragon magic. He recalls it may have been when he was close to death in the desert. He cannot make Iris face that kind of situation. Downstream, Nero and Syphilia confirm that the area is safe and Iris is far from the river. Nero, however, angrily decides that Lloyd must be eliminated. Syphilia comments that Lloyd makes excellent curry, but Nero promises to present her with even tastier curry. She hesitatingly uses her full strength to cast the radish slash toward Lloyd. As it approaches, Lloyd wonders if it's a flash flood, and easily counters it with his water dragon. It's a great spell for handling floods, he explains. The water dragon he cast is now rushing toward the attendants. Nero yells for help, but Syphilia reminds him she can't help since she already ate the radish. Nero shouts again, frustrated that she is always eating. They flow towards the other group. Seeing them, Tiruru becomes furious and scolds Nero for making Syphilia do something reckless again. She tells them to come up immediately. As they start moving, a huge fish appears. Lloyd instantly recognizes it as a legion fish, a high-class monster. It is made of many individual fishes. He cannot understand how such a creature could be here and immediately casts Flame Arrow at it. This does not stop the attack. The creature will not stop until all individual fish are gone. He also realizes that if he uses explosive or electric magic in full power, everyone else will be harmed. Iris steps in and uses Ice Spear with full power. Using ice magic on water is not ideal as it impedes others' movement. Iris apologizes, and just then, the beast targets her directly. Tiruru throws herself in front of Iris to protect. Tiruru is being dragged into the water. Nero and Syphilia try to rush to her help, but are unable to as the beast targets them. Lloyd is able to save them by blasting the monster with his explosion. Iris, with tears in her eyes, steps forward and successfully uses the water dragon spell against the beast. She doesn't want anyone to be hurt, but she also refuses to sit and watch. Putting all her strength into it, she rescues Tiruru from the fish's trap. Everyone rushes to Tiruru to check on her. Tiruru wakes up, praising Iris's magic as beautiful. Tears return to Iris's eyes. Seeing everything unfold, Lloyd realizes that, unlike him, Iris learned magic not for herself, but to protect others. He feels genuinely happy and impressed by her growth. Nero approaches Lloyd to thank him for saving their lives and apologizes for attacking him earlier. He hands him a dish made from the beast. Lloyd realizes that it is a fresh legion fish sashimi platter. Tiruru also thanks him for taking care of Iris and assures him that she will one day repay the favor. Lloyd tries to dismiss the compliment as Nero asks how Iris is feeling, but she runs straight to Lloyd and hugs him, thanking him and expressing joy that he agreed to teach her magic. Lloyd jumps a few hundred feet back due to the excitement. Later, as they prepare the fish, Iris realizes that this is a high-class beast that rarely appears near Manurva. She speaks seriously with Lloyd, sharing her thoughts. Lloyd reminds her that he has been in Manurva for a short time and has already defeated both a sandworm and a griffin, also high-class beasts. Hearing this, Iris begins to wonder if this is more than just simple coincidences. She suggests that perhaps the sacred power of the temple has weakened, allowing powerful beasts to enter more easily. Lloyd recalls that the griffin appeared at the Temple of Winds. Nero grows suspicious. He states that temples should have the strongest sacred energy, making it impossible for such powerful beasts to appear there. But Lloyd senses that something is definitely happening at the Temple of Winds, and once again, everything seems to be leading back to it.
Here I am, know it's been a while.